Dark Souls, a game series that changed the very fabric of the game industry with its difficult yet rewarding gameplay and unconventional storytelling. It's a game series that means a lot to me in how it tests your nerves and persistence as a player. I first encountered the series while over at a friend's house in high school. As a fantasy enjoyer, it immediately stuck out to me. You've got dragons, swords, and magic, and even more than that, the strange and horrifying world the game was set in. See, I'm kind of a fucking coward, and I tend to lose my nerve while playing games, watching movies, or just dealing with basic things in the real world. I'm the type to pace around before asking my boss for something, or to feel anxious when somebody walks past me with their dog. Point is, the possibility of danger scares the shit out of me, and it extends to how I interact with fiction. Dark Souls has always been a blessing in this sense because the thing is, none of this shit is real. It's a video game. Facing my anxiety and pushing past the fear is one of the most invigorating parts of the series for me. I played Dark Souls 1 and 2 and beat each one over time with large gaps in between. Now I'm ready to take on Dark Souls 3. So I start up the fucking game, right? And the first thing I noticed is how much I fucking hate the character creator in this one. Now, Souls games were never that great up to this point with this kind of stuff. Like, you were always gonna come out of that character creation screen looking like you had an extra chromosome, or maybe your parents were siblings or something. But I feel like this one was weirdly restrictive and hard to navigate. I don't know, maybe that's just me. I made my dude dark as fuck, cause why not? And chose the assassin class. I wake up in the cemetery of Ash and get run up on by a bunch of goons as usual. Typical Dark Souls first enemy. The devs basically are doing everything in their power to fuck with new players. Pretty fascinating stuff, the usual. The thing that jumps out at me right away was how many little paths, nooks, and crannies there are, including one path with the ominous message, "Turn back." Upon further inspection, there appears to be some kind of extremely jacked enemy around the corner. He looks like a nice fellow. You see, I don't want to bother him and mess up his day. So I decided to just turn back, let him have his day. I traveled through the area and had the rust, let's say, knocked off me, and encountered the first boss, Lundex Gundir. This big metal boy was aggressive as fuck, but with my bachelor's degree in Souls-like boss fights, he was no match for my manhood, and I defeated him with no difficulties at all. Yes, no difficulties. No difficulties whatsoever. Now, one of the things I've noticed about the game at this point was how fucking weird the game feels mechanically. Like, they tuned it in a way that just feels weird to me after playing 1 and 2. I suck fat donkey balls at parrying so far, but I shall prevail. After getting my balls mangled by mobs again, I look at the left on the new path that opened and almost got eviscerated by a half-naked dude with a katana. Clearly unlike older Dark Souls games, this is the type where you can end up dead by walking down the wrong path. Kinda reminds me of Bloodborne in that way. After running for my life, I ended up at Fire Link Shrine. Now, for people who haven't played Dark Souls 1, this may not mean much to you, but seeing that fucking title card brought up so many questions it was unreal. That, on top of the familiar faces, made it really sink in that this was the Dark Souls game. The one that would completely finish the lore of the trilogy. I wandered around for a bit until I read a message telling me to use the bonfire to head to the High Wall of Lothric. This is when the real motherfucking game begins. Everything before this were just baby shit. The high walls are gorgeous and full of dragons, cause why wouldn't there be? Dark Souls is a game as a journey, an adventure that pushes your technical limits as a gamer, as well as your emotional limits by throwing the most outrageous bullshit at you. To succeed at it requires that you conquer your emotions and gain complete mastery of the game's fundamental mechanics. My journey in Dark Souls 3 was just beginning. So I hope you'll stay tuned for the next one.